Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Market Close Report for Thursday, the 4th of June. Well, not a great day for the Aussie share market today. In fact, the ASX 200 did more than enough to wipe out yesterday's strong gains with a decline of around 99 points, or 1.1% to 8,686. It also means that we've fallen further away from the 8,800 point mark, which we rose above for the first time since the 8th of May just yesterday. And it also has done enough to drag our share market just slightly into negative territory for the year so far. So we're down roughly 0.4% in 2026 now. Now, a few catalysts at play. I mean, the US market didn't really give us much in the way of anything positive to work with. It was down about as much as 1.2% last night, albeit from record highs. And futures are also pointing to a bit of a sluggish start in the evening tonight, at this stage at least. Now, one of the things which didn't help US markets last night was chip maker Broadcom, a competitor to Nvidia, which fell shy of Wall Street expectations with its revenues, and also forecasts for the following quarters seem to be a little on the weak side as far as how markets have interpreted the information. So it seems to have kind of dented momentum, at least for a day, of this AI trade, which of course has been a key driver of the American markets, which are still up around 10% year to date compared to our market, as I said, which is only slightly lower at this stage. Adding to this, flaring tensions in the Middle East, with both the US and Iran trading a new round of airstrikes, which isn't helpful. And then we also had a bit of big news in a disclosure document last night from SpaceX, which released the terms of its IPO. So it's scheduled to float on the US market on the NASDAQ on the 12th of June. That's next Friday night at an indicative price of $135 per share. SpaceX seems to be looking to raise around $75 billion from investors globally, which would make it the largest float ever. And just for context, the current largest is Saudi Aramco, which is Saudi Arabia's national oil company. That raised around $25.5 billion at the time. Now, if we look at sectors across the market today, it was a mixed bag, but there are a few sectors that were quite significant movers, none more so than the materials. The mining sector was down 3.2% today, so a pretty hefty decline. It is still one of the best performers since the start of this year, so roughly up almost 20% year to date, so keep that in mind. But outside of that, we had communication services down around 2.2%. Tech was down around 1.9%, and outside of that, markets were pretty defensive in the way that they operated today. Healthcare was up 0.75%, one of the big losers of the year so far. Consumer staples, which includes those supermarket chains, up around 1%. Utilities were higher, and energy managed to lift as well. Now, energy and mining, that had a bit to do with the escalating tensions in the Middle East at the moment. The price of oil shot up around 2.5% last night, but on the flip side, the escalating tensions saw the US dollar strengthen. And when that happens, you tend to see many other commodity prices in that base metal space taking a bit of a knock. So gold prices were down 1.5%, iron ore was down 1.5%, copper and the like also taking a ride south. Now, outside of that, we did see some winners on the market today. One of the best performers ended up being Treasury Wine Estates. Now, it rose more than 13% today, held an investor day. Now, this is where it meets with investors and analysts and kind of gives them a bit of a deeper look into its strategy and its outlook for the period ahead. Well, it sells Penfolds, Wynns, about 70 other wine brands, and it's a standout partly on news that it could sell its California wineries. It wants to consolidate the US production, which seems to have been an area where it struggled in recent years. It wants to narrow its focus mainly on 10 key brands over time, and it expects luxury red wines to continue to be the main growth engine for the stock. So amongst other things, it wants to reduce costs by about $100 million annually by 2029. We also had Ampol lifting another 4% today. Now, yesterday, it also managed to lift. It had its target price raised by a broker today, and this is after the ACCC gave the go-ahead for its $1.1 billion acquisition of EG Australia yesterday, and this means it would effectively nearly double its retail sites in Australia. So combining Ampol and EG would roughly give it about 25% market share in Australia. Endeavour Group up around 3.8% as well. This is a group behind Dan Murphy's, and JB Hi-Fi, which fell quite heavily yesterday, a number of retailers actually did on some price target cuts and some concerns of perhaps reduced spending in Australia because in part, those 3 rate hikes we've had this year. Well, today it bounced back with a lift of around 3.5%. There were some losers on the market today. We had uranium miners like Paladin falling by 8.2%, but a bit of context there is important. Yesterday it rose by around 11%, and that was on news that there was a major international player which significantly is expanding commercial levels of uranium, which is going to be used in nuclear power plants. And this is to offset a ban on Russian imports, which is expected to kick in from 2028. Northern Star also down. So many of the gold miners struggled as gold prices went backwards. So it fell about 6.1%. And BHP Group and also Rio, which both hit record highs yesterday, fell backwards as well. So it's the largest stock on our market. That was quite a significant weight. And I should mention Lendlease down again today. It fell by almost 3%. It fell around 5% yesterday. And a couple of days ago it warned that it's going to take a loss of around $175 million from the sale of a property development in Milan in Italy. Now, looking forward from here, tonight there is a weekly update in the US on initial jobless claims. This is an update that basically tells us how many people in America are filing to receive unemployment benefits for the first time, so it can give us some pretty good insights into the labour market over there. So that's going to be certainly one to watch. Pretty quiet outside of that as far as scheduled events are concerned, and tomorrow will be, of course, Friday for us, and that is going to be a relatively quiet day as far as scheduled information goes. That as far as AGMs, investor meetings, trading updates and the like. Now, if we look at currencies, the Aussie dollar sits at around 71.3 US cents, has strengthened a bit against the greenback, but it fell against most others, including the euro and also the Japanese yen. On that note, everyone, hope you had a great day. Enjoy your evening. We'll catch you tomorrow.